Hello and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining in. Today we're going to talk about mastering your sales pipeline. So we're going to continue the Command Master series, just a short little 30-minute or less class again today. And then we're going to do this again next week. We had to kind of take a couple weeks off for family reunion and getting everything situated back in the office. Next week is talking about Facebook ads and online ads. So with that, we'll get started on talking about mastering your sales pipeline. And I'm going to go through a few of the basics real quick at the beginning and then show you some of the newer features in here that are actually pretty cool. So today we're going to be spending our time in opportunities. And opportunities is under the handshake on the left-hand side of Command. And within opportunities, there are three pipelines. There's listings, buyers, and leases. And you can see those here when you get into opportunities. So you've got the listings, the buyers, and the leases. And we don't do property management, so we don't do anything within the leases here in this market center. It's there because like in Miami, in New York, places like that, leases are predominantly what they do in those markets. So we're going to live in the listings and the buyers pipelines. So within each pipeline, there are 5 phases: the cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and close phases. And you'll see those across the screen from left to right. And they're there within listings, and then the same ones are there for buyers. And those are not customizable. Those are preset and locked in by KW. We needed something that was like a standard that we could use to measure as transactions go through the process. So every transaction goes through these 5 phases. We're just not all used to calling them the same thing all the time. So within each of those phases, if you were to click into cultivate or appointment, active, any of those, they are subdivided or divided into stages, which are fully customizable by you. So the top level of those 5 are the phases, and then inside of each phase, there's stages. And you can have as few or as many stages as you want. There are a few that are preset in there, but you can edit them, change them, delete them, reorganize them, whatever you might want to do. And so when I click into cultivate, for example, this is what it's going to look like. And in here, I'm going to have watch, nurture, and hot. Now, within watch, nurture, and hot, I renamed them. So if you were to click in there right now, you would see that yours don't say 6 to 12 months behind it, or 2 to 6 months, or 60 days or less. I changed the name because that was intuitive for me. You can use opportunities in the sales pipeline aspect to track potential future business as far out as you'd like. Most people don't track out more than 12 or 18 months, but you could do it however you like. That's why these are customizable, so that you can build them to match how you do business, how you run your business, and your workflow. So these stages can all be edited. You could add, delete, rename, organize, whatever you want with the Edit Stages button in the top right corner. And so if I was to go ahead and click this Edit Stages button, it's going to bring me in to, you can see I'm in listings, and then I'm in cultivate. And here's my 3 stages. There's watch, nurture, and hot. So within this screen, there we go. You can click to drag on the left-hand side to reorganize them. Over on the right, you can edit them, where you can change the name or the probability, or you could delete them altogether. Now, that probability, that's the probability that transactions in that stage are likely to close. So something in cultivate, which might be that I heard my cousin was thinking about moving. So I put him in here because I know that he's thinking of it within the next year. I don't know how solid it is. I don't even know if he's going to use me as his agent. So they got a pretty low probability. Now, as the transaction gets to appointment or gets to active or under contract, as it gets further along in the process, it's much more likely to close, right? I mean, in this market, if it's active and it's accurately priced, or even semi-accurately priced, to be honest, it's probably going to sell. It's pretty likely. So that's that probability. Those do come preset. And if you know your numbers and your conversion ratios and all of that stuff, you can certainly customize those if you'd like. And you can always change that down the road too. Then in the top right, you can click the add stage button if I wanted to add a 4th or 5th stage, or however many I really wanted. when you go into edit here, you can see that name and that probability. So I went in and I edited, it previously just said watch, and I added 6 to 12 months. That way I know that any transactions that I have put in that stage, in the watch stage, those are people that are probably 6 to 12 months or so away from transacting.
Your duty travel one.
And if I have a transaction in there, as time goes on, I can simply drag and move it to nurture when it gets to more like 2 to 6 months. And I can show you where that's at when we get to that part. So by editing these stages, which you may not know how the heck you want to edit them right now, but by editing them, you can really build this out to match the way that you do business or the way that you want to do business. Now, the other aspect to these stages is the checklists. And the checklists are really, really cool because this is an opportunity for you to build out checklists, which are specific items that you want to make sure that you do for every transaction, for every client in there. And by having these checklists in place, you're doing a few things. One thing, the first thing that you're doing is you're setting up that customer or client experience that's repeatable, so that every client gets the same experience, they get the same level of service from you, and nothing slips through the cracks. Then at every stage, you know exactly what are the tasks you need to do before you can get that move to the next stage in the process. The other thing is that you're setting yourself up with the structure so that as you continue to grow with your real estate business, if you reach the point of hiring an admin or getting leverage, if that's where you want to take your business, you've got the pieces in place to be able to leverage those tasks to an admin or to somebody else. There's another piece in here which I wasn't going to highlight yet. I'll talk about it more in a little bit, but this client update, that's one of the cool new features we'll touch on in a little bit. So if I click into one of those checklists, and again, I'm back up here, I'm in that editing screen. So I click the edit stages, or click to edit a stage here, or clicked into the checklist rather. I can go in and I can see what are those checklist items? What are those things that I want to do at that stage? Now, by default, those are blank. There's nothing in those for you. You do have to set those up. And that's intentional because everybody runs their business so different that if KW loaded it with some preset ones, they may not work in every state, or they may not work for an individual agent or for a team. And that's where you can build those out to be exactly customized to your business. So I have a few things in my watch, make sure that I have their phone number, their email, and this continues on to say their mailing address, or their physical address rather. I want to make sure I get them set up on a monthly, it says neighborhood nurture, make sure I set their lead source accurately. And I want to set a reminder to touch bases with them maybe in 30 days or 60 days, or maybe it's not for 6 months. And here I can also reorganize those. So anything that I put in here, when I'm editing that stage, that's my default template. So those are the tasks, the checklist items that get applied to every new opportunity that I put in here. When you're actually creating an individual opportunity for a listing for 123 Main Street, for example, I can set unique checklist items that maybe only apply to that one when I'm actually creating that opportunity. So since these are blank, a lot of you are going to be like, where in the heck do I even start? I have no clue what to even put in there. So I have a couple of templates that I'm going to share with you. There's one that's a 2-page PDF, and that has 1 page is listings and 1 page is buyers. And you'll see down the left-hand side, there's cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and closed. So that's those 5 phases. And then within cultivate, there's watch, nurture, and hot. So that's where the stages are. And we have sample checklist items that you could enter in there if those apply to you. And maybe you don't want to use a couple of them, and maybe you want to change the wording or add your own. You can certainly do that. And then I have another 2 other PDFs. So the first one, the 2-page PDF, that's one that we put together in our office just as this kind of a standard set that you could use. The other ones are they're got them from another market center, really. So there could be things in here that maybe wouldn't apply to you, but I'll share those too. So I'm going to put all of those in the chat, and then I will make them available in our Facebook group as well. So I'm loading all 3 of those in the chat right now. So feel free to download those from there if you'd like to get those. Or you can watch for our Facebook group a little bit later on. So the other piece within here is that there is a probable, oops, get my little slide pop up to go away there. There's a probable and a potential income. So I'm here, I'm in the listing pipeline and I'm in the cultivate phase right now. So here I have my watch stage, my nurture, and my hot again. Well, down at the bottom of each of those, there is a probable. So this one says probable of $648. That's a real money maker. And my potential of $12,960. Now the probable is really, really low because at the top of watch, it says 5%. So it's really figuring 5% of that commission. So the commission being $12,960. So the potential means if that goes to close, that's my potential gross commission income. The probable is based on that percentage. So as I go and move that transaction from left to right. So I could click on Betty White here, for example, and I could drag her over into the nurture as time goes on or into the hot. And that probable is going to go up because it's going to go from 5% to 7 to 10 and so on and so forth. Once we get less than 60 days and I'm trying to set an appointment, I could click on this transaction and drag it up to appointment and drop it. And then it would fall under the appointment category or phase. So on the main screen of opportunities where we have those 3 pipelines listed, you'll see at the bottom of each of the phases, there's a number that tells you how many transactions you currently have in that phase. The volume is the total volume of those 2 transactions added together. And then over on the right is my potential and probable income. So that's adding up all of the transactions you have from cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and closed. And then it's going to figure out the probable. If every single one of those closed, I'd be looking at a gross commission income of $43,766. And that potential, that's the potential. The probable would be based on, these are probably like 90% likely. Under active, it's probably 70 to 80. Under appointment, maybe it's 30 to 40%. And so that's where the probable comes into play. So from the main screen in opportunities or from any of the phases within listings or buyers, there is a create opportunity button in the top right corner. Now under that create opportunity button, there's 2 different screens. They're pretty much the same. There's just one little difference in there. When you go to create an opportunity, you have to make sure the market center should be preset, but the opportunity type, you need to make sure that you set that either to listing or buyer, because once you create the opportunity, you can't go back and change it. So if I accidentally created it as a buyer and it was supposed to be a listing, I actually have to archive that opportunity or get rid of it and create a new one with the appropriate type. So the listing one does not have one little box right here that says time frame. That's the key difference between the 2. The other thing, you want to make sure that if you're on a team, that you do always have your team selected here. And most of the time it'll be selected by default, especially if you're already operating under the team profile within your command. Then client, that's where you go and you search for your contact. So in order to create an opportunity, that person does have to exist as a contact. So if I had somebody that I met at an open house and they are thinking of buying, I want to create this as an opportunity for my sales pipeline. I want it in that cultivate. I'm still nothing solid yet. I have to make sure that I add them as a contact into command before I can create that opportunity. Then I can click in this box, search for their name and select them. You can also select a co-seller or a co-buyer. And again, they have to be in command as well. Opportunity name. If it's a listing, you can call it the property address. If it's a buyer, you probably don't know that property address yet. And so you can create it as their name or whatever's intuitive to you. And then you can edit that later to add that in. Then you put in your estimated close date if you have it. You probably don't have it yet, though, if you're adding them in for the pipeline piece to track your potential future business. but you could put in an estimated listing price. If you know that it's about 280 or about 475, you can put those in. This stuff can be changed later as you get a little more solid and have a better idea what that price might be. Commission rate, that's where you're going to put in your percentage of the commission rate. So that's going to be not the total commission on the listing, but your piece of it. So that's up to you. You put in what you think it would be, or what you're estimating it would be. If it's a listing side, maybe it's 3.3%. If it's a buy side, maybe it's 2.7. And again, if you don't know, just plug something in there. Maybe just plug 3% in for right now. You can edit that later. I did skip over the custom tag piece here. So this part's a little bit confusing sometimes because there's two different places we can have tags. There's contact tags and there's opportunity tags. Opportunity tags gives you an additional level where you can sort and filter out contacts based on a certain tag set. Most people aren't really using the custom tags in opportunities from what I've seen so far. That the applications where I have seen it used is if somebody wants to tag all of their waterfront properties, or they want to tag all of their properties that are within a certain neighborhood as that neighborhood name, you can actually create your own custom tags there. And to do that, you click in the box, type in a name that you'd want to call it. For example, if you were going to, if you had a particular farm area, you could put in that neighborhood name and you could use that as a tag for every opportunity out of that farm or out of that neighborhood. And then the last piece in here, you can select an opportunity phase or stage down at the bottom. It's going to default to the very first stage in the very first phase. So cultivate and watch. But you can change that if you know, hey, this person's ready to go a lot sooner. I could click on watch and select hot, or I could go right straight to appointment here if I wanted to. And the last thing I'm going to show you in my slides before I jump over into my command is in the top right corner, there is a question mark where you can always access the help and information within command. And when you click on that, you'll get this little pop-out where you can get into Keller Williams University to access all of their help guides, tutorials, and they have a lot of really, really in-depth, both written and video tutorials. All right, I'm going to pop out of my slides here, and I'm actually going to go into my command. So as I get this pulled up, are there any questions so far? Anything, if you want, you can throw it in the chat. You can take off mute and jump in right now. All right. So if I go into opportunities, I've got my listings and my buyers. One thing that I'm going to show you that is new, in the top right corner, there is a little settings gear here. And if you click on this gear, this cog, brings you in to your opportunity settings, specifically around the client update. Client update is a newer piece that they added, and the client update can actually tie into those checklist items. So I could go in here and it gives me a little important information saying, hey, you do have to turn this on for each opportunity. But here's where I can set up those defaults. So I could say, yes, I want this to go out at 9:30 a.m. to notify the client when I complete certain items within those checklists. Send from, if you're on a team, you'll have an option to send from yourself or the team, I believe here. Do you want it to go to the client and the co-client, or just the primary? And if you select also send to owner, that'll send an email to notify the contact owner in command, and it's not referring to the property owner. And there's an email template. If I click on preview here, this is what this looks like right now. So this would send out a daily email to them at 9:30 when tasks are completed. If there aren't any tasks completed since the last time, if this email was to go out this morning and then no new tasks were completed over the weekend, they're not going to get it again Monday. They're only going to get it when tasks are completed. So they're going to get this nice little email. It's going to have the opportunity name here. So make sure that what you title your opportunity is what you would want your client to see. So if they're a real pain client, don't put that in the opportunity name. So that's where we usually see property address. And you could use something different at the beginning if it's a buyer, because you're not going to have that address yet. And it's going to say, hey, here are the checklist items that were completed. If it's a listing side, maybe this would say the sign has been ordered, the photographer has been scheduled, whatever those checklist items. And then it's got your branding at the bottom. So then back in opportunities, if I click into one of my phases, and I click into one of my opportunities, like my Steven Seagal opportunity here, the client update feature is in the top right corner. If I click on client update, this is where I'm going to turn this on for this particular opportunity. If I don't turn it on, nobody's going to get it. So in that command settings, under the settings gear, that's where you set up the defaults for it. And then within an opportunity, if you click client update, you can go through, say, yep, I want this to go through. And you know what? I want this one to go at 11:30 a.m. Send from owner. So that's going to go from whoops, I didn't mean to click on that one. That's going to go from the contact owner in command. So if you're a solo agent, that's going to be from you. If it's a team, it's going to be whoever is set as that contact owner.
Can I interrupt for one quick second?
Yes.
So when you pulled up that default email template, we just went over it. It's got that Irene person on there.
Yes.
Will that automatically fill our information, or do we have to do something?
That's a great question. That will pull your information from your marketing profile in command automatically. So if you don't have your marketing profile completed, you'll want to make sure you have that set up. And that is under your name in the top right corner, and then settings. It's hiding here under connect settings and marketing profile. So make sure you've got your photo here, like Lloyd Christmas. If you have a team logo or your logo, and all of your contact info. So make sure that that's set up in your marketing profile, because that's where that'll pull from. There's another question around, if we use a transaction coordinator, will the client update features work? The client update features will still work as long as they're creating that opportunity in your command, and those features are turned on. Yes, those would come through, and they would come from you. You would have to go into the opportunity and client update where we just were, and turn it on and set it. So I'd turn this on, set it, say, do I want it to go to the seller and the assignee? Sure, because that's the agent that's assigned to it. And then there's my template. If I wanted to add somebody else to get those, I could do that as well. And if they had multiple emails, I should be able to select those here. And there is a link at the bottom if you want to learn more about this client update feature. So by turning that on, they are now going to get notifications when I complete those checklist items. So if I go back to my list here, I have this checklist item. They're only going to get it on the ones that I have it turned on for, because I don't need them to see that I updated the smart plan. I don't need them to see that I completed a follow-up call with them. However, if I go into this published listing one, sure, I could let them see that I have put up the for sale sign, or that I've uploaded pictures to the MLS. Like, those would be fine things to notify them for. I don't need to notify them on link KWLS listing, on that piece. But door knocker on listing, maybe I want them to know that. So I can go within a listing like this one for 4221. I can turn specific things on or off. Oh, there we go. I updated a whole bunch of things. And then when I'm setting up those defaults, when I'm editing my stages, I can set those to default yes for the client update. And then those are going to be automatically set to do client update if I turn it on for that client. So you have the ability under the edit stages to set those defaults, And then within each opportunity, you can override those defaults, and you can even add. So here it pulled in my default checklist items, but I could add a unique one for this particular client or this particular opportunity.
On the sample one with Irene, it said, it sent out and it said checklist 1, checklist 2, but will it actually have what you've titled it?
Yeah, if I put client update on this one, they're going to get it that Marty completed, do this for the deal,
Okay, so
or
maybe
prepare
careful.
CMA. Yeah, it'll pull the title of that checklist item.
Got it.
Yep. So that client update feature is pretty cool because you could set it to be to automatically notify them. One of the biggest complaints that clients have is that lack of communication about what's going on. You know, I think back to when I bought my first home 5 or 6 years ago. You know, as I was a buyer, once I had an accepted purchase agreement, like I had no communication with my agent for like 2 weeks. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? I had never been through this process before. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what the heck he was doing on the back end. So these client updates are just little touches that you can automate to keep in communication with your contacts. So then I'd go through and I could move this to the next, and then that new checklist appears here. So if I click on it, I can check these things off, and I can set specific due dates. So on updating opportunity or prepare CMA, if I wanted to set a due date for this prepare CMA of today at 11:29 and hit OK, that's going to actually add a task for me. That doesn't notify the client, but set the task for me. So on the home screen of Command, if you have your task widget on, you're going to see that show up in these tasks. And you can see it under the task list. You have contact tasks and you have opportunity tasks. So here's my prepare CMA that I just set. So I'm going to have those show up right there. So it's easy for me to come in the morning or whenever I have my time block and say, oh, these are the opportunity things that I need to do today. Check it off, check off prepare CMA, and now those are checked off in that opportunity. So if I go back in, and I don't remember where I had that opportunity right here. Oh, it was right there. So that one is completed now. So by utilizing those checklists, it's a great way to make sure that you get the same experience that you're creating for every client. Are there any other questions right now? That really covers what we wanted to talk about today. You know, we primarily were looking at the cultivate piece when we're talking sales pipeline, because that's your potential future business. So that could be under buyers or listings. And again, I could go rename these for the buyers. I could hit edit stages and watch, and I could put 6 to 12 months. And that's just for me, but that makes it super easy for me to go, hey, everybody in that category is 6 to 12 months or so out from buying or out from selling. And I can always go back in here to look and see those are the 6 people, 10 people, 12 people, whatever it is, to make sure that I'm staying on top of those, or somebody else's sign is going to be in that yard, or you're going to be like me. And now I'm licensed, but I'm not really actively producing. One of my friends who I knew she was getting ready to buy sometime within the next 6 to 12 months. Well, she posted last week that a picture of her with her standing on her new Pulte lot. And so I missed that opportunity. I didn't follow up with her though. Again, I'm not really actively trying to produce. But if I would have stayed on top of it, I would have actually done the checklist items. Maybe I would have had a shot. So if we don't have any questions, that's it. That's all I was planning on covering today. Again, we like to keep these short, 30 minutes or less. If you have any questions, though, certainly feel free to reach out to me, shoot me an email, and we'll continue this next week. We'll be talking about social ads and Facebook ads through Command.
Hey, before you log out,
yeah,
will you just again show where you added? You sent those things, and we're going to add all of our checklists. Show again So it's fresh in my mind where you go to add those.
Yeah. So I'll start at the top. So when you go into opportunities,
Yep.
and let's say we wanted to start with our listing checklist. So we go into any of these phases like cultivate.
Okay.
Then in the top right corner, there is an edit stages button
Yep.
where I can see all of the stages I have. So my watch, my nurture, my hot, and your checklist is going to say 0 of 0 items. But if I click here, I can then go add those items. And I can, if I want the client update it for that piece, I can select it here, or I can add it later. Or if I don't want it at all, I can skip it. And there, it just added it. And then I can click here to reorganize it.
Got it. Thank you.
So I'd save this. This one now has 5. And so I'd go into the next one and add that one. So you do have to go do that within Cultivate, within Appointment, Active, Under Contract, and Closed if you have any. It's a little bit tedious to set it up the first time, but once you have it, it sure is nice. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining today, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one next Friday at 11.